Dad Pod.
This is a video thing as well.
Doesn't have a name.
Podcast.
Midlife crisis.
Paddy Daddy.
Midlife crisis.
Dadcast.
That's not bad, actually.
All right. One last time and with feeling, hello to all the dads who are out there. Dave is here.
Hi, Ger.
Nathan is here.
Good afternoon.
Adrian is here.
Good morning.
And it's Christmas, and we're wrapping this up because you lot can't get your shit together enough to do this often enough to feed the need of the public for good quality parenting advice. It's almost as if we treat this the same way we treat our kids. We're kind of into them for a little while, and then we forget about them for a while, and then we're into them for a little while, and then we forget about them. And so, we're going to wrap this up. This is the final one, I think, for now. Just as Adrian is about to unleash a whole new torrent of good quality content. I don't think the listeners know this yet, Adrian, do they?
I thought we were going to do a big reveal where we should have actually used the social media channels and said which one of the Dadcast team do you think is expecting. The comedy value unquestionably would have been if it was Dave.
That's right.
I certainly wouldn't have found that.
I think
Very funny.
that ship has sailed. We could have done or we could still do like a gender reveal party.
Oh, yeah. Do you know?
No.
Sorry, I'm learning.
Congratulations, by the way.
The listeners. This is me learning along with the listeners that you are going to be a dad again. You crazy bastard.
Adrian is up to Duff.
And the even more crazy thing about it is it's only 3 weeks away.
What?
I mean, come
Hashtag.
on. We're going to do this. We're going to do this every couple of weeks. We'll be really committed to it. We'll do it at least once a month. He's had a baby in the meantime since we've had a last episode.
Hashtag left out of the loop. Well, commiserations / congratulations.
Thank you, Dave, and that you've hit the nail on the head. And to be fair, like it does demonstrate how many times we've actually done this thing in the last 8 months since this has been used.
I wasn't sure what you were talking about there, but
yeah, possibly once, Ger.
Well, his job was done by then.
Yeah,
fill in the blanks. I was,
So right, that's incredible. Fair. I mean, I'm gobsmacked.
Thanks, Dave. I mean, I know I certainly wasn't as far anywhere near on the same track as you in terms of the possibility this might happen again. I mean, we wanted it to happen again, so there we go.
The rumors around South Dublin, Adrian, are that this may not be the last one either.
Look, I don't know. I wouldn't I know Ger is sort of up for having a football team, and I wouldn't be that far away from it as well. But 90% of the time, I'm like, oh, this is so tiring. So probably not. But look, never say never, Nathan. We'll see. Let's get this one done and dusted and delivered safely into the world first, and then think about where we go from there. We get like a 4-for-1 down at Emma Byrne.
Are you going to tell us any more about your wife's pregnancy snoring, or is that off limits?
What you're talking about?
It's fine.
You know
it's
the way you
yours.
forget stuff. You know we often talk about you forget stuff.
Yeah.
Was that a thing? So I don't know what you're talking about, John.
Okay, so it never happened.
No comment. Yeah.
Okay, grand. Well, that's. I think it's right and just that you should take this opportunity to expunge all the stuff that's happened before. I'm not saying there won't be a version of this in the future, right? I just think that if we're going to be honest to the listeners, that we need to actually show up and do it from time to time. I'm trying desperately to find out when we did our first episode. Does anybody remember how long ago?
It was close to 5 years. Possibly. I mean, I give or take a month, I'd say. And I know that because it was around the time that I was excited about being a parent, and it was before before it happened, and then you actually realise how tough it is. So yeah, it would have been. It's in the region of 5 years.
Is that long?
And at a run rate, Ger, of about 3 per year, we've been racking them up.
It looks like we're getting to 28th of September 2018, it says. So your maths aren't great, but 3.5 years, roughly. 3 years and 2 months.
No, that's not right.
What's it like to be a dad? The good, bad, and mostly ugly is here. Maybe we uploaded them on iTunes afterwards, much later. I don't know. But that seems to be the first one.
All right.
I would have thought that my third child wasn't born when we did the first.
I don't know. I mean, look.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I definitely cannot make new memories. So when Adrian, how has that experience been for you? Is there anything different You're just much more confident now with a third pregnancy, kind of blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
Well,
Not practicing the breathing at all.
It hasn't, Ger, like just over 8 months into the pregnancy, it hasn't really hit us yet, the reality of it. It hasn't really hit us yet, the reality of it. It hasn't really hit me yet. And I don't think it does. Like, obviously, my wife is like, oh my God, I can't believe how pregnant I am, and feels as if she's ready to go any day. But I found that all the way along that, and I don't know if you guys were the same, but like it's not really real until the very second it happens, and then everything changes entirely. And I feel sort of the same here, that like you are engaged a bit more in that there's more stuff to do because you got to shoulder a bit more of the load. But other than that, like it isn't real. I don't find it's that real. It'll all be a bit exciting, obviously, in a few weeks' time when touch wood, and hopefully everything works out well and the new baby arrives into the world, and it'll all be very exciting. And there'll be a load of planning to be done, and then there'll be the whole process of coming home, and then it'll start to hit home a bit. But it doesn't. There's nothing until there's something, I have found. I don't know about you.
It's so long ago, I just can't bloody remember, Adrian.
Well, I think if you go back to the first couple of episodes, we're not all about this, that actually that sort of sense of what is the point of us in the pregnancy process until the day of arrival. I guess it depends on how smooth the pregnancy is, but yeah, I'm thinking post-Christmas baby. There's always something about. I'll think about it after Christmas. I'll get through the Christmas. I'll think about it then. Don't worry about that. My eldest lad was born in January, and I was always, I'll get the Christmas out of it, and then I'll take things seriously.
As in, you'd go and enjoy yourself, like a few drinks.
Yes, absolutely.
Thankfully,
back then,
the date is the first week of January, so I'm like, only hit me yesterday. I was like, we were sort of mapping out what a Christmas looks like, and up to this, I'd been thinking, oh, have a few drinks there, have a few drinks over there, have a few drinks here. And now I'm thinking, oh shit! It's
an underrated experience in your life to be completely shit-faced in the delivery ward. It always goes across very well. You create long-term, lasting relationships with the consultant, particularly the one that you say, "Are you sure you've washed your hands?" It works out really well when you're like googling on the phone to see who this guy is that you've never met before. That's a winner, Adrian. So I would suggest you go out and you get liquored up as often and as early as you can, because. It'll certainly add to the story of the whole thing.
Yeah. Get the old fashions going at home. I'm doing that, and like the consultant is another good point. Like I said, I haven't been able to go in at any point. Sorry, I was in. Was I in? Yeah, I was in for the 20-week scan, and that was it. Literally nothing else. So that takes away from the reality of it as well, because you're like, you are the exact same as every other just up. You're seeing the photographs and getting the reports, but you're not actually there to figure it all out. And I'm interested to see, obviously, within the restrictions, exactly what's going to happen on the day or the days of it as well, because you hear all the various versions of the horror stories about people obviously not being allowed in. So
I mean, it's your third one. Do you really need to be there?
well, we should point out to the listeners here that Adrian's wife is probably secretly delighted that he hasn't been able to go in for all the different meetings with the consultant, because that room is one of the only rooms in the entire country where Adrian is a superstar, because Adrian's consultant is a big fan of Adrian.
Of off the ball.
Of Adrian and of off the ball. So his wife is basically over in the corner here while Adrian's reveling in the adulation of the consultant.
No, it's more that he just wants to catch up with sport, and I'd say like he is, most of the people that he comes in, he obviously doesn't know anything about, and so his opportunity to catch up on what happened at the game at the weekend is fairly limited. So I would say that's big. But I have to say, to be absolutely fair, Nathan, and you've brought it up now, there is an ongoing dialogue over and back through my wife. So I get all day, tell him about this or talk to him about that, and then I'll obviously relay some information back. So the tap hasn't entirely turned off, but we'll have a lot to catch up on the delivery day. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you'll be in there for quite a while, it turns out, for this type of thing anyway. There's a couple of other quick things that I wanted to talk about. One was, we got the keys to our new house this week, right? This is kind of apropos of nothing. It's not very much to do with the parenting, except that you need more space. Adrian, I think you were lucky enough in that you guys have enough space, so that's not going to be an issue when you're planning numbers 4, 5 and 6 or whatever it is, however fecund you end up being. But I don't know what your experience of this is like. So we went and we did a final inspection just to make sure that everything that they said they would do had been done. When we got there, and the owners were clearing out the house. It's probate sale, so it was obviously their dead father or mother or whatever. And we got there and everything was grand, and the person didn't even say hello to us really, beyond a bit of a grunt. And then we left anyway, kind of happy enough with how that was. And then we got back and we got the keys, and all the white goods were gone, which was like, you know, a bit of a surprise. We have to say, like, you know, they probably weren't great. Doesn't really matter, but it was just a kind of principle of the thing. And then we went upstairs, and the batteries had been taken out of the smoke alarms, and they were gone.
Wow. That is cheap.
Is this normal?
That is
Wow,
cheap.
that is impressive.
Is it normal? Is that happening?
That's not normal. That's
it not?
just cheap ass.
Okay, I wasn't sure. We were like,
I mean, just
Why? What are you going to do with them?
I don't know. They're like €2 each.
And you'd be 100% sure that the smoke alarm had batteries in them.
Totally, because we would have seen them. You know, they had to have been moved to like
Right.
Because you just throw them in the bin then. They're kind of useless.
It could have just been the most unfortunate of coincidences that when they were leaving their house, the battery had gone on their smoke alarm. Like, oh, to get one of them. And then, why don't we just take those? We do own them already.
Ours.
And it just worked out like that, rather than them in
That's
incredibly tough.
Yeah,
Had they taken the bulbs out of the light sockets?
No, they hadn't. They hadn't, in fairness to them.
I'll be back for them.
I have heard. Well, we're going to have to change the locks now. I'm just looking at the picture of us here from the logo that we put up on iTunes, and we do look like 4 younger individuals without a care in the world, as it turns out. So whenever we started this, one of the reasons that we were going to stop doing this was because our kids were going to get old enough to be able to listen to it, and that's beginning to happen. I've fielded a few questions about what is Dadcast, and there's also kind of MP3 players coming into our lives where I'm like, what if there was a download possible? So that was the other thing. I think that, are we all agreed that this is the end?
Unless someone comes in and makes us a big money deal.
Yeah.
Not that we would be financially motivated at all. This is for the people, by the people. But obviously, if somebody comes in and offers us a lot of money, we will return. But like, we can't really say it's not the end, considering there has been nothing for about 8 months.
Yeah.
I think that's the point, that we've shown such little commitment to it. What's the case to be made to keep it going?
Is there less to talk about? Is the other thing as the kids get older?
That was my main reason for the good stuff had dried up.
Well, it's funny you mention that, right? It's funny you mention that. One of the other things that was supposed to happen over the course of this day 5 years ago was that you were supposed to get the snip. This was like you were on you'd got the letter, I think, and one of the other ways, Nathan, that you thought was a good way to sell this would have been like, which of the dads is having a baby? Well, you could also do this. Which of the dads actually went and got the snip?
Oh, it's still on the cards. It's still talked about. You know, it's.
Well, you'd finish second in that race then, Dave, because I'm putting my hand up.
Oh,
whoa!
When was that?
4 or 5 weeks ago. Whenever I was messaging you going, let's do one final one, it was like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this.
Right.
We need to talk about this because
I would imagine that it'll be done in the next month, I would think.
Well, let me. I hope.
Jesus, dominoes, lads.
You need to go. You need to go to somebody you know. You should. I don't know if you've talked to Emma Byrne or not, but you need to do it with somebody who you know and respect. There's like I couldn't really do that because, like, you know, it would feel a little bit uncomfortable having. No, he didn't. I made a catastrophic error in not getting somebody who I can have a conversation, because it turns out you need to have a conversation. It's a very physical thing, right? Where they have a good route around to find the actual tubes, and that's sore. That bit's sore. You might be able to help with that process if you like had some kind of that's a little bit sore. Maybe I should move a little bit here.
And you think that would have helped if it was Emma Byrne?
Well, I mean, somebody you can have a conversation with who you know, as opposed to like just lying there, kind of going. Also, very, very happy that it's happening during a masking period where you can't see the constant grimacing and the levels of pain and suffering.
Right.
It was
start at the beginning here.
Okay, so I made the decision to get it done and was like, because I'd been farting around pre-COVID, thinking, will I, won't I? And actually, in retrospect, I 100% should have got it done the day after we had our third child. That was like, for medical reasons, we were definitely not going to have any more kids. That was, I should have been a good husband and realised this at the time. But instead, farted around, used COVID as an excuse to kick it down the road. And then was like, okay, going to get this done. Instead of actually doing any proper research on who to get it, I just picked the first person who had an available slot that week. And
Wow.
yeah,
Like,
you're better off kind of talking to somebody who's been through the process with somebody, it turns out. And
Was this like
maybe that's
by first person first minute of the slot? Was this like
well, it was
down a Moore Street, side street type scenario?
I was telling my wife about it afterwards, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds like Dirty Dancing when they have the abortion." And Patrick Swayze like, and they didn't even use no ether. I was like, I don't actually remember any local anaesthetic. I definitely feels like I didn't have any local anaesthetic. So it wasn't particularly good, I would say. It wasn't a great experience, certainly for the first 2 weeks. It's fine now, so maybe I should just stop being a baby about the whole thing.
well, from the person who has literally just said that in the middle of one of the births, you were Googling who the doctor was, like the level of preparation that appears to have been into this.
That was because the person who we'd been under the care of was off. They obviously don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that was...
Would you not have, like, dropped somebody a text and gone, hey, like...
Who do you like? That's why I'm suggesting you all should, like...
Put it in the old Slack channel.
Should get your you should get yours done by somebody you know.
And
there's a few funny lines. There's a few funny lines in the middle of it. There's one. It's like, oh, you and me are not going to remember this day or this time ever, but you will probably always remember the smell in the air, and that's fine. That's normal. It's just the singeing of the flesh. I was like, listen, buddy, I'm going to remember this fucking day for the rest of my life, and I will also never forget the smell of the singeing flesh.
Psychologically, in advance, was there any part of you, like, what, because like that is that the reason that you don't get it done sooner? Like, what are you thinking as you're
need to turn on the TV? Hang on. Keep talking, Adrian.
Well, I'm asking you a question, so it's difficult to get the bloody answer when you're.
Why, Dave? Is it the next month? What steps have been taken?
It's just.
You lost the race.
I'm being asked. Well, the race was never of much relevance to me, Ger. I'm being asked about it, and I have a couple of friends who've since got it, and there's at least one of my friends who is in the same boat as me, and it's very much on his to-do list in the near future. So there's talk of maybe going in brothers in arms and let's pick a week and we both get it done. So
a buddy, a Snip buddy.
Yeah, exactly. A snuddy.
You know what? I actually think, it sounds totally weird, but it's the right thing to do, because then you can at least compare and contrast.
Yeah, but you really haven't sold it. Like,
no. It's only...
sounds like a horrible experience.
I done 5 weeks around then, and I made some chronic errors. Like, I didn't actually read the pamphlet afterwards about what you're supposed to do. I didn't use any ice. I came into work the next day. Not a good idea, really. It was I was inventing a back problem. It was like, it was the day of the Robert Pires stuff, so I had to do that standing up. I was like,
Oh, jeez.
I've done my back, Johnny. Could we do this standing up? Because I couldn't sit down. I literally couldn't sit down. Like, you definitely take the day off work and make sure it's on a day where you're not working.
And were you not taking painkillers or anything?
I've been like effectively snorting ibuprofen. As early and often as I possibly could. But it only helps a bit, It's the general sense of swelling and pain and motion, and there's also a wound. There's a small wound that takes a little while to heal. So,
how long did the swelling last? And how severe was it?
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Like not being able to sit down for a couple of days, and just generally.
Could you sleep at night?
Not the first night, not the second night. No, there was definitely interrupted sleep.
Right. God, like, why would I bother having listened to this?
Well, because you have to. It'll be fine 4 weeks afterwards, I'd say. It'll take about 4 weeks, maybe 5, and then you'll be fine.
That's a long time.
It is, but actually, you know what? Then it's worth it. It's over. So.
And
well, by the sounds of what you got done, I wouldn't be able to take confident that it's over.
Just Dave, I think the main takeaway here is don't plan to do an interview with Robert Pires the next day.
It was a good interview. He was in good form. I was like, this is taking my mind off things.
So when you were walking into the office chair, how were you feeling? What were you thinking? To
get it done. That's another. Yeah. There was another funny line. It was like, studies have shown, and we don't know why, but people who have any reluctance suffer more pain. It's like,
oh wow.
It's like, what?
And so were you a bit reluctant?
I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I'd decided that this is the right thing to do, and I was catching up on myself really. Like, So my wife got very sick 2 weeks after we had our third child, and it was around. So he was born day before Patrick's Day. So I was driving around the parade route on Paddy's Day, but then there was big parades for the anniversary of 1916 Rising, and I distinctly remember driving down, like, the roads are lined, the cops are there, and you're like the only car on the road, because she had like massive blood pressure issues in the aftermath of it. Like, honestly, we should not have been in any way endangering the life for the sake of contraception. Like, it just didn't make any sense. So I really should have had it done 5 years ago, or in the immediate aftermath of that. So no reluctance, no sense of like, well, what if, like Roy Keane, happy birthday to my current wife. None of that, no.
Have you made your wife feel guilty about the pain you've suffered?
I mean, that's kind of...
Have you brought it up on a regular basis?
You should...
Well, sorry, that's the other thing.
Hey-oh.
That's where I thought you were going with that when you started out. Have you made...
the pain thing, how just spool that out for a second. You've been in the delivery ward. You've seen the actual proper long range hours and hours and hours of pain. So,
but you have recency bias towards your own pain.
Okay, I'll use that as a. But no, everything's in full working order. To the question that you're like desperately trying to ask, but don't have the balls to, if you'll excuse my fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
So should you have like a bucket of ice?
I have everything I need.
Should you have a bucket of ice in the car, Ger, and dip your ball sack into it when you get back into the car?
Dave. Yes, probably.
Ger's in the office here, Dave.
Ready to go. Is that?
I would recommend that you take
yeah.
some. There's loads of stuff that you could do that would definitely ameliorate my experience if you like did proper research and spoke to people and had your little buddy with you, or were like using somebody you trusted.
I just can't believe this is the route you went down, considering we had an expert on this very show talking about it, gave all the advice.
But like,
you don't
he made it sound like
somebody who ever just goes into something without thinking about it, and then you just go to the first lad you spot online, and then you wonder why it all went horribly wrong.
Like looking up yellow pages.
Sorry, it wasn't the first. It was like the one that was on the way home. It was just the easiest one.
Oh, Jesus, that doesn't make it sound any better.
It was like,
it was on the way home.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I would have come away from the experience of listening to this show and talking to people who had it done, and the people who had emailed us. It was like, this sounds grand. How bad could it be? Like, I was actually scheduled to go out that night, but that party ended up getting put off. But like, I mean, that's how thick I was, really, about or ignorant of. I just wouldn't do it too lightly on the day itself, Dave. I'd have my prep done.
Well, it sounds to me like you
failed to
can't.
prepare.
You're in too much pain to drive properly, sleep, any sort of physical exercise at all. Which, like, how long would it be before I could actually do any exercise? Or it's, by the sounds of you, 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I think that's just Ger. No, can't risk it. Won't go for a run today.
You're such a scumbag, Nathan. At my most vulnerable, picking on my weaknesses. Thanks. No, I'd say, well, Dave, you could do your lifting and all that kind of stuff. I just wouldn't be doing too much squatting.
That first squat. Could you do a squat now, Ger?
I mean, Nathan, let he who is without sin cast the first stone.
I love
your shimmering crystal palace here that you're fucking your rocks at me from.
What I mean is, if you were to do a squat now, would there be a risk?
No,
involved?
totally. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, it's over. That's it. It takes a while for you to be able to say it's over, and then when it's over, it's over.
Have you, to Nathan's original question, have you been able to do the wild thing since? Or
I mean, we've answered this. You're just not paying attention. Everything's in perfect working order.
Okay, that wasn't explicit, you see.
But at what point are you?
Come on. What?
At what point are you satisfied that the operation has been a success?
3 or 4 months, you've got to go back for a test.
Okay, right.
Is there like a booster jab that you might potentially need?
In 30 years' time, Dave, when the no more children have arrived. My God, that thing worked. Remember that thing?
The smell of the singeing will never leave, though.
And your libido is in full tilt, is it?
Wow.
Is that what it's called?
How's yours, Adrian?
At the minute, I suppose it's maybe I'll go for the no comment there.
Okay.
But you know, psychologically, I know I've talked about this before, and I do appreciate that when we talked about it before, you also laughed me out the gap. But that sort of thing of there's no, bullets in the gun anymore, and how that impacts on you psychologically.
It turns out, I don't think it does.
Why would it impact you in any way psychologically if your intention was to remove said bullets from said gun?
It's like you're getting the outcome that you hoped for.
Exactly.
No.
I'm trying to come up with a clunky Alec Baldwin analogy.
Please don't. We want to be able to broadcast this at some point.
Yeah, let's steer clear of all that, and
so that's it. I guess well
done.
Congratulations.
Am I going to feature in any ad campaigns I don't think I will. I think that might be a little bit hypocritical, but certainly I wouldn't put anybody off it. I would just advise that you do some reading, and
I think you put Dave off it, to be honest.
No, surely not, Dave.
Well, you certainly haven't. You haven't got me rushing down the stairs now and heading out the door straight to the one that's on the way home for surgery.
But Dave, you're not enthusiastic about it to start out with, anyway.
I'm not. No. But who would be?
Well, Ger seems pretty cock-a-hoop.
No, he said it was the. He said, he knew he should have got it done years ago, so he wasn't rushing out to do it either. And he's also said the only reason he's done it is because he feels it was the right thing to do. Whereas I'm not doing it for that reason. Screw that. That is not the motivation behind me getting it done. That is the right thing to do. But
what's your motivation?
It just would certainly make things a little more convenient, and it would certainly take a subject off the table that gets routinely brought up.
For an easy life. I'm doing it for an easy life.
Is there a possibility, Dave, you're going to get this so then not tell your wife you've had it done?
I thought you were going to say take the subject off the table as in third baby, as opposed to I keep getting nagged about this. That's
sorry, I thought that's what you meant.
No,
I think we need to rethink whether this is the last episode or not. This is
Well, the problem is, by extension, the subject of a third baby is regularly brought up because
by other people.
No, because of the fact that the snip hasn't occurred. As in, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You realise what could happen here. So, the prospect of the third baby is more nightmarish now than it was even when I last spoke about
this on this
podcast.
It's too late now. You're too self.
No, it's just, I couldn't. Oh, they are. We are out the gap. This is just not doable by any stretch.
You're in a danger zone, Nathan. How old is Rose, your youngest?
3 and a bit.
Oh.
3 and a bit.
So what are your conversations?
Through the terrible threes. There's been no conversation around it, and I'm hoping that this episode doesn't start the conversation because whatever chance there was pre-listening to you, I'm definitely pushing it back several years.
Right. Why?
Well, I'm not. Well, just mentally, I'm not prepared.
Why? Why not mentally?
I don't know why not mentally. I'm just not.
Because you were all laughing at me saying.
Maybe now that I have turned 40, I should start thinking about these things more.
What's your legacy going to be here? When not
a fourth child.
When they're writing the book, well, it might be.
Nobody has 4 kids anymore.
Well, Adrian's planning on it. There, it sounded like.
I certainly can't. I'm not sitting there ruling it out. No, neither of us would be ruling it out. I'm not. Neither am I signing up to it. I have to say, we've only got 2 at the minute, and it's yourselves hard going. So, but I couldn't rule it out.
It is hard going. The thoughts go back to day one, literally day one.
Well, that's it, Dave, and I have to say that is a big concern of mine now. Not that there's much I can do about it at this stage, but you're back to square one with what's that stuff? Mucosium. What's that stuff that comes out?
Meconium, yeah.
Yeah, that's day dot now, and that doesn't fill me with anything.
But do you still have a lot of baby stuff around the place?
Loads of there's boxes of clothes, Dave, coming out of places in the house.
We would have to buy everything as if we just got rid of child.
We've just got rid of the buggy, which had been sitting in our living room for 6 months. We've just got rid of it, and it's Oh, there's a little bit of extra space here now all of a sudden.
I'd have to buy a changing station. God, if I had to buy a changing station, the tears would be rolling down my face.
I could actually, before you said it, I could picture you crying as you were like unpacking the changing station.
Handing my card to the person at the till, and the tears just pouring down my face.
Oh, tears of joy. No. No. Definitely not.
So now that I think about it, my wife, we have a load of stuff up in the attic from like the baby, so like a Moses basket, and the attic's getting rather full. So I'm like, we not just pass this on or dump it or whatever. And she's like, no, we keep it for grandkids. I'm like, grandkids are like 30 years away.
Is it like one of those home and away hugs where she goes, we'll keep it for grandkids, and then you have a hug?
And the camera is it? The camera behind is like,
And it lingers on the half-drunk bottle of wine.
The footsteps.
The other thing that I would recommend anybody who's made it all the way here is to have your kids at 19 and 20 when you're actually able for it. All that stuff about, like, in Irish life, having kids young was supposed to be a sign of, it was like trouble, shame, can't do that. It's totally the right thing to do. If we'd all had our kids early, we'd now be like completely relaxed about it. They'd be practically grown up, and we would have our lives back.
Could be I know younger grandparents than me.
Maybe but
yeah. If I'd had a kid when I was 20 and they had a kid when they were 20, I'd have a 4-year-old grandchild.
Yeah, I think
I'd have like a grandchild younger than my kids.
I think Linford Christie was a grandfather meddling in one of the major championships at one point. But
that's a different story.
Anyway, Dave disappeared there. Looks like he's doing. We're going to disappear one by one here. He's doing a bit of parenting. Is there? I don't know if anybody's anything else that they want to talk about. Thanks to everybody who emailed us in over the years. We had some fairly amazing emails. Some of them were sensational. Some of them were just funny. Some of them were silly, and some of them actually asked us for advice, which was a bad idea, as you can tell, because we have done no research, it turns out, for any of the important decisions in our lives. Although, Adrian, you're a good man for reading a book, aren't you?
Not really. We did live research as the shows went on. I think, just to spool back about a half an hour ago, the question about whether we do this ever again, I think that we could come back in a live context. If anybody wants to book us for a festival, we are open to go to Electric Picnic when that all happens.
Every year.
And whatever else. That would be my view on it. And by the way, can I also add that just as we were chatting there, I compiled a short list of my personal highlights from each of you over the course of doing this podcast. And they're in no particular order other than the way I've written them down here. Although I will say, I do think the last one is probably going to be number one. Dave's highlight, I'm going for the fucking the scooter over the hedge. That stuff was absolute gold. And I do think it represented the end of the top of the arc in the Dave McIntyre parenting story.
You very, very quickly, so anybody who hasn't heard it, quickly. Give your 8-second summation of what happened, Adrian.
Dave do it. Dave's in a far better position to do it.
I've managed to erase this episode from my mind. It is
you're out in the park, you got angry.
It's the low point of my parenting career.
You're out in the
high
park,
point of this podcast.
It's a 7-0 defeat.
You couldn't
I've got a little man whispering to my right here, so just bear with me one sec.
So you tell the story there while he's...
It's a live viewing of has Dave progressed as a parent since that episode.
No, he has.
He
has. I would say, like, when we go for most improved player of the season award, Dave is top of the list. There's no question about it.
I can't remember why I threw it over the hedge.
You were just losing the plot. I don't think there was any...
Yeah, I think was it during lockdown?
Yeah.
Say it was during lockdown. We were all obviously on the edge at the time. We were down the park and... I can't remember what it was. One guy may have driven a scooter into the other guy, and then I was probably starting to be shouted at and yelled at, and I think I just picked it up and just fired it over a hedge. I don't know. I think they were saying, I don't want this scooter anymore, and I probably just, grand, fine, just picked it up. And the problem was, as soon as I had done so, I just saw another parent about 5 yards from me, and it wasn't the knowing look you sometimes get when your kid's screaming at you and the other parent's telling you, telepathically, don't worry, son, I've been that soldier, I feel your pain. This was like, you're a despicable human being.
the people on boards.ie posting about seeing Dave McIntyre in the flat. The second one I'm going to bring up here, and there's a couple of wrinkles to this, is Ger's black sack story. Do you want to recap that one, Ger?
Well, any time that there's like a moment of crisis, you're like, you get a black sack and you put all the toys in it and you throw the black sack in the car or you take it away. It's like, this is you following through on one of your threats to get rid of the toys. It's a multifaceted problem, obviously, because you can really only... So you threaten the black sack a lot, and then you can only do it very rarely. But it turns out that they have too many toys and they don't really give a shit about which toys. Even if it's like today's favourite or last week's favourite or the week before that or like an all-time favourite, then it doesn't matter because there's more over there. And there's not enough black sacks to get rid of all the plastic crap in our houses.
So that was wrinkle number one. And then wrinkle number two to that story was you were away that day, Ger, when Paul O'Connell was on, and us three chatted to him, and Dave recounted that story so well that Paul O'Connell thought it was him that was the originator of it, and then happened to be in the office. Do you remember that? About 2 or 3 months later,
yeah.
And you were doing an interview with him in the studio, and he came out, and I was talking to somebody else, and he came over, and he was laughing his head off as he walked over, and he went, "Jesus Christ, I'm still telling people about McIntyre and the black sacks."
The black sacks, Dave, and the scooter. Jesus Christ!
Oh, the black sack was used on multiple occasions.
It works. It works.
I had the boot filled with toys on a couple of occasions.
Yeah. It works a little bit, but like it's just. I mean, if you could just stand outside of yourself and go, "You're just being an angry dickhead. What are you doing? Stop it." That would help, but I can't do it.
No, it's impossible. There was the other day. There was a list of moments where I've been angry recounted to me by one of my children. It was like, oh my God, it was a sobering experience. When else have I lost my temper? And he proceeded then to
August 15th, 2021.
It was almost
August 16th, 2021.
It was like a timeline. So
yeah, that time at McDonald's, that time in the supermarket. But sorry, I think you've missed one of McIntyre's highlights, which was obviously the woman parking in the kids' bay.
Oh, true.
So a woman parks in the kids' parking slot and doesn't have kids. So Dave follows her into the shop and accosts her in front of whoever she's trying to pay, and like makes a big deal out of it. But it's Dave tells it obviously much better, and it unfolds slowly as we realise you followed her into the shop. What? Well done. I think Dave has become a hallmark, and people still reference it.
I think we missed a major opportunity. That was the opportunity really for this podcast to go global, where we could have, and I think at the time thought about, starting a worldwide endeavour to shame people who were parking in parent and child spots.
Yeah.
Of course, I had my own issue with that outside Super Value one day.
Was that your man who you thought was a fan of the pod? Is that the guy? Oh, that was gold.
Just remind me.
I was coming out of the shop, having, as usual, robbed the croissant for the child as we went around. The child had eaten the croissant as we went around. And there was some guy just pulls into the parent and child spot with no child. And some guy who was coming behind gave me this nod of like, but for whatever reason, I thought he would listen to the podcast and was like, I don't know what comment I made, but it quickly became apparent.
You said to him, we'll probably have to talk about this in the podcast.
Yeah.
What a wanker.
He's like...
He's looking at you going,
whatever he had said initially gave the impression that he knew about the podcast and all that.
Well, it's more of a sense of your ego, I think, Nathan. Let's face it.
Well, there is. That's very true.
On that, I can't even remember the context to it, or I don't remember anything about it, but I think it might be my all-time number one highlight of anything that's ever been said on an off-the-ball production in my entire time working for the company, where Nathan... Well, do you want to recount it, Nathan? I can't remember exactly the details of what went on. It was your next-door neighbour out for a run early in the morning, and you woke up in the midst of a semi.
That is not what happened.
What happened?
That is not what happened.
Okay.
No. You see, you enjoyed this far more than that. You enjoyed that semi far more than I did. I don't even. I think the point of my story at the time was that my neighbor, who actually does listen to this podcast, was he'd outdo McIntyre in terms of his fitness regime. And when we were doing one of our 5Ks or triathlons or something, he was suggesting like go out for a run with him in the morning, but he goes for a run at like 5 a.m. for like 30 miles, and somehow the words "in the midst of a semi" came out.
In my mind, you woke up, opened the curtain, you saw the neighbour run past, you were in the midst of a semi. I don't know why that. I don't know what the context was.
No, he was in the middle of a sentence that got interrupted, as far as I remember.
But I said I must have just misspoke.
Yeah,
which is not what you want to do on a podcast such as this.
No.
But anyway, they're my little highlights.
Right. Well, Adrian, just before we finish, I think we have to give the obviously, Adrian's had a couple of major highlights. One is the snoring, and every time I've met your wife since, I always have a feeling that she looks at you fuckers know too much. That there's a distinct distrust because of that. But also, you brought great shame, we should remind everybody, on this podcast. This is a very progressive podcast about, modern fathers and how we contribute and how we're not like our fathers and our grandfathers. And, we are useful around the place, which, of course, you destroyed when your wife went out for her first drink.
Yeah.
Her first drink.
Oh, yeah.
Since having a baby.
How do we forget this? Go on, Nathan.
First drink. And child number 2 wakes up, having a little bit of a cry, a little bit of a moan, as they do. I'd say the child must have been 3 months old at this stage. Yeah. So, your wife wasn't in any rush to go out. So, first night out, a couple of drinks, about 7 o'clock of a Friday or Saturday evening. What's Adrian's first reaction? We all know what everyone's first reaction is here. You just suck it up. You just put up with it. And when your wife comes home, you say, no, everything was fine. Oh, no, she just woke up. She just woke up. It's fine. It's fine. No. Adrian rang his wife to get her to come home to bail him out.
Yeah.
Would you not even have just rang your own ma and said, Ma, what do I do?
No. I needed somebody to rescue me. Like, it was either ring my wife or dial 999. And to be fair, I stand over it, and there was a lot of people who were fairly quick to jump on your bandwagon of, this is disgraceful, who subsequently had similar issues themselves and were in contact to say, actually, I've changed my mind on that.
Oh, yeah. How many people said that?
Give us names. Give us names.
Let's not worry about
it. Because whoever that person is also
one vocal.
A question.
Well, I thought when you talked about Adrian bringing shame in the podcast that you were about to recount the fact that he one day allowed his son take a dump at a park and just left it there. Went back in shame 3 days later to pick it up
and left it
there.
And left it there.
Couldn't find us.
Yeah. God. So you forget about these things, happily.
Speaking of not finding it, I was going to finish up by reading out the comment at the start that was like, these people are disgusting and should never be allowed to have children in the first place. I can't find the actual full comment to give credit to the user who gave us our first 1-star review. And to this date, our only 1-star review of the 208 people who've bothered their holes to rate us on iTunes.
Oh.
So there you go. All's well that ends well, I think.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, lads. It was certainly set out on the, I haven't a clue what I'm doing here. Can you give me some advice? And I do think that being the most relatable podcast on the internet, I think a lot of people got value out of it. I think people tend to come up to you in hushed tones and say, oh, by the way, I listened to the podcast. Like the opposite to the Golf Weekly people who shout at you.
Yeah, they're golf wankers, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't help themselves. But and it's okay, Nathan. We make you a better person by coming out and doing this. And I suppose you were bringing your golf wanker sensibility to that guy. I was like, oh, I'll talk about that in pod.
By the way, can I just say?
Yes.
Can I just say that Ger is inevitably going to end up on Pat Kenny over the next week on the back of his his revelation.
There is no way that he doesn't end up on Pat Kenny. He might even do
on the show.
This might even get you on the last word.
You could be on the Late Show.
No.
Oh yes.
Unavailable.
Yes.
This is our platform. No. This is it. This is the only one. So
you'll see the bright lights.
Let's see which bits get clipped.
Your black and blue sack.
Very purple, Nathan. It's a bit like your jumper.
Wow.
It's been a blast, lads. Fair play.
On that note, if anybody has any feedback you want to give, we do read the comments on the iTunes I don't know if we're reviewed anywhere else, but dadcast@offtheball.com will still be an email address that if you're utterly desperate for, we might fire up the old time machine and get back into it. Adrian, best of luck with baby number 3. It's actually not that different from number 2 as far as I remember, but then again, my brain is so blitzed I can't really recall. Maybe Nathan has something on that. But Dave, get it done, buddy. Get your buddy, do some research.
It'll happen someday.
There was one last thing. It was like your man was like, "Oh, I do about 700 or 800 of these a year." First off, that's quite a big difference between 700 and 800, and it was like, that's a lot of Mickeys. That's a lot, and at 495 quid a pop, that's also very lucrative. So anyway, I've said it all. That's
do you
this week's.
Do you think he goes home in the evening? Do you know the way, like, you go home and have a bit of a, like, you know, a bit of a chat about work when you go home in the evening? Do you think he goes home in the evening? God, you won't believe the things I saw today.
You wouldn't believe who's in. And what does his partner go? And what was? Oh no, nothing to shout about.
Nothing to talk about.
I don't know where that was going to go, but I'm glad we stopped it there. Right, that is this week's edition of Dadcast. It is in the books. It may well be the last one. If you've been part of any of our journey along the way, great. If you've missed any of the episodes, they're all there on iTunes and wherever you get your podcasts. For a while, we will delete them at some point, but probably not for about 6 months or so. So we wish you all the best in your misadventures in parenting. Take care.